Can you tell that I've been having a bit of a pasta craving lately? Today we're going to be testing out some one-pot pasta recipes. As you can see, I am back home in my home kitchen here in New York, away from Paris, which I'm still a little bit sad about, but I am getting ready to answer your Q&As. Thank you to everyone who submitted their questions. Today, however, we're going on this pasta adventure. One thing I did miss a lot was this cooking extravaganza. As somebody who actually consumes and makes a lot of pasta at home, I don't actually think I've ever made a one-pot pasta recipe. Like, I've always been very skeptical about either overcooking the pasta or, you know, the sauce is too starchy. I just feel like I can't control it well. But I can also understand the appeal of it, the convenience of it. And I feel like a lot of you are very curious about, you know, easy, quick recipes that are actually good. So I've curated a list of 8 one-pot pasta recipes, and we're gonna give them a nice little rating, so then we can decide whether we want to keep them in the rotation or check them out the window. A lot of pasta that we'll be going through today. It's pasta time. So the first recipe I'm testing today is actually what many consider to be the first one-pan pasta recipe that kind of started it all, by the one and only Martha Stewart, no less. The origins of this recipe is also very interesting. Apparently a member of her test kitchen was visiting the Puglia region of Italy, and the chef at the restaurant they went to actually cooked the spaghetti this way. And that's kind of what inspired this one-pan pasta situation. And the beauty of this pasta recipe really does just lie in the simplicity of it. The ingredient list is fairly simple. There's only a few things on here. I'm using linguine here because that's what Martha Stewart used, but I feel like if you wanted to replace it with another long pasta of a similar cook time, that also works. The steps are also pretty straightforward. I'm literally just putting it all into one pan, and there it is, the finished pasta. Here it is, our first one-pot pasta. I feel like I couldn't do a one-pot pasta video without throwing it back to the OG, Martha Stewart. I think some people actually say that this might be the first ever viral pasta. And when she first released this recipe, it was over 10 years ago. It just like blew people's minds. You can actually make pasta in just one pot? What? That's crazy. Can't believe it actually took me this long to finally give this a try. The broth sauce has actually continued reducing, so it's actually clinging better to the noodles right now. Ooh, wait, why is it so spicy? It's fairly straightforward, right? It's just tomatoes, garlic, onions, very much like stripped down ingredients. But there's so much flavor, and I wonder if it's because during that cooking time. So that reduction has actually allowed the pasta to really kind of soak in all the flavors of the garlic, the onion. But this one really embraces just the natural flavor of the ingredients. Wow. And the whole process maybe took me like 15 minutes, even with the longer pasta cooking time. No wonder this is the OG. Perfect al dente too. 10 out of 10 would make it again. So this next pasta is supposed to be inspired by pizza, specifically diavola pizza, which is spicy salami pizza. So that's what I'm adding to the pan, along with this huge ball of mozzarella cheese. For this pasta dish, I'm using malfadini, which I personally really like. I'm also trying to go for like a thicker pasta to kind of counter the cook time of around 20 minutes. One thing to know about this one-pot pasta recipe is that it actually calls to have the pasta cook with the lid covered. And that's what I think makes a significant difference, because this way there's less water being evaporated, but it could also mean that the pasta gets cooked a lot faster. For that extra like umami salami taste too, this dish uses this paste called Inga paste. This is my first time working with it, so I'm also very curious to see how this turns out. And since I have a little more mozzarella left over, I'm just sprinkling those bits in to give it more of that pizza-y look. And so here it is, the pizza pasta pizza. It is still sizzling. I feel like I'd categorize this one as sort of a spin-off of the Martha Stewart version. The base of it is very similar. I am a little surprised that there isn't onion and garlic here, but it seems like we're swapping out the aromatics for the umami of the spicy salami. Not sure how I feel about what is essentially boiled salami, but maybe that fat translates over. Ooh, there you go. That's what I wanted from the pizza pasta. Ooh. It does kind of smell like pizza though. Let's see if it tastes like one. This one feels more like a mishmash of drunk food. The taste in my mouth is definitely reminiscent of like a pepperoni pizza. It's probably because of the paste that we put in. In the original recipe, he adds both tomato puree and andouille paste. This one actually includes a little bit of both. It tastes like spicy salami. That's kind of what's carrying this pasta right here. The pasta is also a tad soft. I would say this pasta is a good conversation topic. 10 out of 10 for the concept, but 4 out of 10 for the execution. So overall, this is like a 5 or 6. I'll eat it if it's there. Not sure if I'd make it otherwise.
This is a fun one. For all of you who love buttered noodles, I feel like this is the one to try. Also, something very unique to this specific recipe is that it actually asks you to toast the pasta in the butter before you add any sort of liquid to it. So you actually start to get these really nice like toasty brown bits on the pasta itself. And also this one actually uses chicken broth instead of just water, which I feel like is an easy substitute for most of the recipes you're going to see in this video. I will say though, the cook time did end up extending for a longer period of time. I had to keep adding more broth over and over again until the pasta was al dente. But once the pasta is all cooked, that's when I'm adding in the butter and the cheese, and it just smells so good. I feel like this became a brown butter pasta, which I am very looking forward to.
I gotta say, this one smells incredible. You know that smell of like caramelized onions, brown butter, that sort of nuttiness, all of that I'm getting in here. You can see the color on this. Wow, it's this gorgeous golden brown. I've also actually never tried toasting my pasta before. Is that why it smells so amazing? I'm definitely also just smelling the brown butter that is in here. Wow. This would be such a good fall pasta. A dab of miso would have been really good in here too. English pasta seems perfect for it. There's so much surface area for it to cling to. Maybe I should do like a pasta ranking. I will say I ended up putting a lot more chicken broth in here than I thought. Because the broth was getting reduced so fast, I don't think the pasta actually had time to cook properly. So it was like adding, reducing, adding, reducing. But what that means is that this pasta has all the flavor of that broth. This honestly feels unexpectedly gourmet. I would give this a 9 out of 10. It is a little more work, so maybe that would bring that down to an 8, but still very solid.
This next one I am very excited for because I love lasagna, and this is basically a hack to make lasagna in maybe like half the time it normally takes to make one. I think there's a lot of ways to kind of make the base of the red sauce here. You could complicate it if you want. I'm really just going for the minimal, like simplest ingredients. So just some beef, onion, carrots, garlic. I'm also just using store-bought tomato sauce. And I know I didn't put it on the ingredient list, but instead of water, I am putting wine because I feel like that's the bolognese I grew up with. Totally optional though. And the thing is, I tried breaking these lasagna sheets delicately on camera. It did not work. So I ended up just breaking that carefully off screen, and that's how we're ending up with these nice square sheets. Probably very important to know that these lasagna sheets have to be the ones that you don't have to boil in advance. So definitely pay attention to the packaging. Like with all the pastas we've seen so far, mixing it and kind of wiggling it a little bit is very important throughout the cooking process to make sure the pasta sheets do not stick together. So I feel like I just gave it a good little mix in like 15-minute intervals. The video I was referring to did not add any sort of cream sauce. So to make up for that, I'm adding in some balls of ricotta before sprinkling on some mozzarella, before I'm putting it under the broiler so I can get that extra cheesiness. And would you look at that? One pot lasagna.
As somebody who loves lasagna, this is such a nice and easy, quick way to achieve the same purpose. Granted, we don't know how it tastes yet, but it looks really promising. You get the cheesy goodness. This is definitely it. This is one of those recipes that I feel like a lot of people have done before. Everybody has sort of their own take on it. You can make the sauce from scratch if you want, but I kind of liked how the video I saw on TikTok, they just used a store-bought marinara sauce. In which case, this really does feel sort of like a throw everything into a pot and it comes out delicious situation. And it does give me that satisfaction of eating a lasagna. But if you are somebody who are more used to the creamy white sauce, this might be missing some of that. It is more sort of tomato forward, which personal preference, I really like. Solid 9 out of 10. The -1 is just for the creamy part. This would have been a lifesaver in college. One pot, minimal ingredients, 100% satisfaction.
All of my avid TikTok users, you're going to recognize this pasta almost immediately. The infamous one pot feta pasta. They do say it is very important to kind of douse your tomatoes in olive oil, like be extremely generous with your olive oil, which is why the tomatoes are getting real shiny in here. Some more oil on the feta as well before we're popping it into the oven. And I actually let this cook for double the cook time. They usually call for half an hour, but I actually left this in there for about an hour because I really wanted the tomatoes to be like blistered, and I didn't mind the slight char on the feta. I was a little concerned about overcooking, but they just ended up blending so well. Like the tomatoes were just gushing juices out. Mixed in with the feta and the pasta water, it just made for this beautiful creamy sauce. And that's what we have here.
I am definitely late to this trend. I remember this being so popular a couple years back. Apparently it went so viral that feta actually went out of stock at the grocery stores, which is maybe a testament to how popular it was. I will say it is that sort of creamy, cheesy, ooey gooey that I think people just love in general for pasta. I'm not normally a feta person. Maybe this will change my mind. I can see why people like it now. Something about feta, I feel like it has more of those like tangy notes, so it feels a little more refreshing than the usual like heavy cheese. When it's super hot like this outside, I would almost want this more. I had to go get a napkin. But you know what it is? This feels like I added lemon in there. The tanginess of the feta, right, just adds a little more acidity to it, and that's why it's giving refreshing. Maybe that's why I can keep eating it. And the tomatoes are like bursting with juice, so it feels very fresh. The more I eat it, the more I want to bump it up to a 9. Just docking 1 for the 2-pan situation.
This is the only one pot pasta recipe that called for 2 trays of ingredient prep. There is a lot of onion that's going in here because we're making caramelized onions, but we're making it in the oven versus over a pan, which is also a first for me. I usually just like making my caramelized onions over the stovetop, but I thought we'd give it a try and just see how it goes. What you see here is after half an hour of cook time, and I was nowhere near getting the char, the caramelization I was looking for. And this is what it looks like 1.5 to almost 2 hours later. You're getting some color, you're getting those flavors, a little bit of those burned bits, and I'm just squeezing the garlic out. And then we're really just jazzing up the caramelized onion base with a bunch of different aromatics, some coconut milk. It smells really good, but honestly I was getting a little frustrated. But with the heat and the cook time, with that aside, pasta looks beautiful. New flavors in this pasta, so I'm excited.
I I originally had high hopes for this one. It was caramelized onions, there's coconut milk, but I honestly feel a little bit scammed by the cooking time. It says that the caramelized onions are supposed to take only an hour in the oven, which already I was a little skeptical of. This ended up being in the oven for almost, I want to say, 1.5 to 2 hours. And I had to keep going in to kind of shuffle them around a little bit. And then I ran out of patience. But I don't know, we'll see. Maybe the taste will make up for it. I like the use of fresh herbs. I think it brightens it up a lot. Maybe it is the basil and the coconut milk, but it reminds me of the notes of Thai cuisine, which I generally really like. I think it sort of diversifies the flavor profile we've been having. I'd probably spice it up by adding in some chili oil, but I don't know. The amount of effort that went into this and the ultimate end result, I feel like it's not quite balancing out. This would be closer to a 6 out of 10 for me. Love the flavors it was going for. Just not sure whether as a recipe it's worth doing, which would probably bump it down to a 5.
This is probably the recipe that calls for the least ingredients. Now, I've made lemon pasta before, but this recipe calls for a different method where we're actually going to make some lemon essence, where we're pretty much just adding lemon peels to water and letting it sit overnight. The recipe also calls for lemon leaves if you have those. I unfortunately did not, but my lemon water still had this beautiful color and scent. Oh my gosh, it smelled so good. And then this lemon essence is what we're using to cook our pasta. And that's really all there is to it. Once again, I did have to continuously add more liquid, more lemon essence to the pasta, since the liquid was reducing so fast. But finally we got to al dente status, and that's when I'm adding in some grated provolone and some lemon zest. And would you believe it, just maybe 4 ingredients, 1 pan, and you have a gorgeous lemon pasta.
I feel like I am in a field of lemons. This entire cooking process, starting with the lemon water, the lemon peels, just like a burst of citrus in your face. I love my lemons, so I am very excited for this. You do get that like lovely flavor of lemons, but I think my biggest misstep here may have been the lemon water. Similarly, I did leave it overnight, but maybe the temperature of the water was too hot when I first threw the lemon peels in. Maybe I let the lemon peels sit in there for a little too long. The lemon water on its own, when I tasted it, I didn't feel like it was giving that much bitterness, but it really comes through now when cooked into the pasta, which is a pity because there is such good potential here. I do really love the simplicity of it though. Let me try it again. Yeah, the initial taste is great, but right after that you just get this extreme bitterness. Ooh, I don't think it's fair to rate it as it is currently, so I think I'm going to have to try this recipe again. Right now though, I actually am not sure how many more bites I can take of this. I'm so sad. I was looking forward to this.
This is another pasta recipe that I have never tried before, even outside of it being a 1-pan pasta, where we're using peas as the base of the sauce. And I'm using fresh peas here instead of frozen peas because peas are in season right now, which is also part of the reason why I wanted to give this a try. But here I really am just sort of cooking down the peas until they're tender enough so I can scoop some out with some of this broth, and I'm using an immersion blender here to blend it up until it becomes this very smooth and creamy looking green sauce, almost like a cream of pea soup. And this puree is essentially what we're going to cook the pasta in. While that's cooking too, on the other side, I'm just making what is sort of a carbonara paste. So with both grated Parmesan, grated pecorino, and an egg, which can help make the pasta even creamier with like more richer notes. But I will say though, the peas and the pasta water alone have already given this pasta like a very nice coat of sauce. The egg cheese paste just takes it to another level. I don't know about you, but this kind of looks delicious to me. What we call a lazy princess pasta.
Hoo-hoo! I didn't realize, but this kind of ended up being like a pea carbonara situation with that little egg cheese paste. And the main reason I wanted to try it, well, there's two reasons. One, I don't like peas, but I am willing to be convinced. Secondly, it's called Lazy Princess Pasta. Can we just give a moment for these names? First you have lemon Temptress, then you have Lazy Princess Pasta. I love it. I feel like I should eat this one before it starts clumping up too much. I would quite like this. Kind of insane for me because, again, not really usually a fan of peas, but I feel like there's something about fresh peas. There isn't that same sort of like mushiness. What you get here is more like a creaminess. That extra egg and cheese just gives it a nice little punch. It definitely feels like a comfort food. 10/10 for taste. It does involve a couple extra steps there, blending, the straining, but unlike the other ones, I feel like this one is actually worth the effort. So I'm gonna put this at a 9 out of 10. And if you're somebody who doesn't really like peas, who knows? Maybe this might change your mind. All 8 of our one pot pasta recipes tested, rated. We have a couple favorites, a couple not so much. Let me know if you have any different thoughts from what I said in the video. Maybe we can work on a different version and see where that takes us. This was a very fun adventure. I feel like I got to cook with a lot of pasta types today, a bunch that I actually haven't tried to cook with before. Also just feels great to be back and cooking in my own kitchen again. Now, excuse me, I have a bunch of stuff to clean up. I am meal prepped for the week though. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.